I had just finished premiering a short film called Little Chief that Lily starred in, and I had some attention around the short. It came here to Sundance in 2020, and people were like, "You should make this into a feature." And I was like, "Oh, like I really loved the short film, but I hadn't ever imagined a larger world." But I knew that people were interested in my reservation. People were interested in a character that had these certain kind of like archetypes. And I started outlining the project, and then the pandemic hit, and it was just a really lonely time. I was in a language immersion program on a reservation up in Six Nations, which isn't where I was from, and I was wanting to be a writer director, and I was trying to do all of these things, and this pandemic hit, and it was like a lonely time. And so I had met Michiana at Sundance through the Indigenous lab. And we didn't know each other that well. Like, we'd met and I'd read her script and we'd supported each other through the lab. And I DM'd her on Instagram because that's the only way I knew how to get hold of her. And I said, "I've got this film that I'm writing. I've got a few scenes mapped out and I've got it outlined. Would you be interested in writing it with me?" And she was like, "Yes, let's do it." And so we dived into this story, and we really wanted to focus on matrilineal love. We wanted to focus on how kinship and relationships between family members can help you overcome even the darkest of situations. But we didn't want to focus on the dark situations. What we really wanted to focus on was just the love and the humanity of this aunt and this niece as they were traversing through, you know, their world, which is that their sister and their mother is missing.
So we've seen a lot of films come out that handle this subject, and although, you know, some of them may be truthful in some sense, they also have a really heavy emphasis on focusing on the trauma. And, you know, we live these stories every day. The story of Fancy Dance is born out of our community, so we know these stories intimately, and we didn't want to remind people of those traumas. We wanted to show them how those traumas can affect families, how they can affect relationships, how the outside world plays into them or ignores them. So it's this undertone in the film, the same way it's an undertone in our lives. Mm-hmm. And it's an important issue to keep talking about and keep bringing to light. There are Supreme Court cases right now that are weighing the merits of keeping Native children in Native homes. There are attacks on Native women every day on reservations and in Alaska, where I'm from, where it kind of becomes this lawless place where, you know, opportunists who are looking to do harm have almost free rein to come in and do so. And there's almost no repercussions for it most of the time. And for me, my mom and my grandmother have been doing this work for a long time, trying to fight to keep our women safe, and they're tribal politicians. And I kind of play in that arena, but in my more creative role, I wanted to make sure that we share their stories, because I believe that stories are so powerful and they have a way of connecting people to an issue that simply stating statistics won't. So I'm glad that this film is like hitting people, because it is so important to all of us. It's a very intimate issue, and we want to make sure that we celebrate the families at the heart of it who have to go through these sufferings.
I mean, seriously, this is the day-to-day of this level of trauma is maintenance. And you can't afford to, and you don't have time to be in that, you know. And there's a deflective quality to it that, you know, some people find odd or misplaced, but others, you know, it's a survival mechanism, and it keeps the boat afloat, really. And yeah, it's having those moments for Jax. Even it's, you know, you let it out once, and then you're not really sure if you can close that wall again. So it's just a continual, and then making it not procedural, but making it just something that needs to be taken care of, like a bit more matter-of-factly. It's in a way that somehow is elusive to people who are in positions of power that are, you know, supposed to be taking care of these things that just don't. There's just a matter-of-factness and a, getting it done and putting yourself somewhere that's in a way safe, you know, to do what needs to be done. And also a lot of that had to do with just, you know, what her experience of this all is finding Tawi is an incredibly important thing. Her having a normal, happy childhood is an incredibly important thing. And those two things are pretty irreconcilable, so it's a hard place to be as a caretaker. But you just take it moment by moment, and that was really Jax, you know. It's, I think, thinking about Jax as a younger woman and being perhaps more recklessly opportunistic in some instances, definitely learning as she goes. I mean, it was just a funny little coincidence that a couple of weeks before we started shooting, I slammed my finger in a car door, so I had a black fingernail the whole time we were shooting, and my first thought was, oh, this is so good for Jax. Yes, this is going to be so good for Jax. And then, like, getting covered with bruises, but it's like, yeah, this is just somebody who takes life's blows and just like, all right, shake it off and keep going, you know?
I feel like we all just care about Roki and Jax so much, and so I feel like, you know, we can see them in people that we know, and we can see them in ourselves. And with Roki, I just love her so much. I really just care about her so much, and I can see her in all of my like little cousins and myself and my little sibling. And when like preparing for the role, I really just thought about them and about how I can represent them as best that I can. And, you know, working with Lily, amazing, perfect, wonderful.
She made it very easy.
Yeah.
Suddenly become an auntie.
I cried several times a day, and I remember thinking, like, you know, you hear that old adage, like, you shouldn't cry at work, or you shouldn't. I was like, it was impossible. I mean, we all deal with these topics on a personal level in some way, and we had to take care of each other. There were times when I was directing that I would have to walk away and take a moment and just cry. And then there were times where someone would say, I really just need 5 minutes because I need to go collect myself before we do another take. And we just we couldn't care about the next take or whatever. We knew that the most important part was taking care of each other. So yeah, we cried a lot at the powwow.
Yeah.